Welcome everyone to this video with myself and Jamie on good meeting etiquette. So we're particularly looking at good etiquette and good manners in online meetings and online training using things like Zoom and Teams. Obviously we're in Teams because that's what we're training everyone on, and Jamie is currently sharing his desktop and recording from his desktop so that you can see everything that he is doing and that we're talking about. Because if we recorded the meeting without sharing desktop, you wouldn't be able to see all the things that Jamie's doing. So the reason for this training is it's come up in a few different forums where staff have said they're struggling in online meetings because people are interrupting each other. And I know where Jamie and myself have run online training, people do sort of interrupt often to ask questions. Jamie, would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Questions that could probably wait till the end, because usually we're going to already cover those questions during the training. So yeah.
So what we're going to do is talk about different things that you can do within training and within meetings to just keep it run more smoothly and make sure people don't interrupt and other issues. So the first thing we're going to talk about is muting and entering meetings muted. So for those of you that attended the Teams training with myself and Mark, there was over 200 of you in there, and we had to ask everyone to be muted because we were getting so much feedback and background noise from other people's computers. We are all at home, there's things going on in the background. I can't count the amount of times I've been interrupted by the dogs barking. And if I was in some training and I wasn't muted and that happened, it's going to disrupt everyone else. The same if you have children that interrupt you, or you might be the doorbell rings, anything like that. So what we are suggesting is that everyone enters a meeting muted, you unmute to say hello, and then you stay muted unless you're addressed, you're taking part or you're leading another part. And the reason for that is, although the lead of a meeting on Teams can mute everyone, which is what Mark and I were doing on the Teams training that some of you I'm sure attended, as people join later, they were coming in unmuted and we were having to remind everyone. We do understand that at the start of a meeting, it's really good to sort of say hello and everyone introduce themselves. So it's good to enter muted, unmute to say hello, and then remute. Because if you enter late, you don't necessarily always know that you're entering late, particularly when you're joining an online meeting. So best to stay muted and find out how the meeting's going and where you're entering in, just as you wouldn't interrupt if you were entering a real life meeting or training late. You wouldn't come in and disrupt everything. So Jamie has muted himself, which I can see that he's doing. And so Jamie can unmute because now I'm addressing him.
Hello.
I want him to join in. And that's a really good way as well to manage questioning, which is one that we're going to come on to next. So imagine this was training that Jamie and I was running, and Jamie has a question, but I don't want him to interrupt me. Jamie can raise his hand. So as you can see from the screen, Jamie's just raised his hand and I can see that he's raised his hand. And then it's up to me to choose when I address his raised hand. So just like you would in a meeting or training. So it may be that I go, Jamie, I can see you've raised your hand. Have you got a question?
Yes, I do.
Go on.
No, I haven't.
No, you don't.
Carry on.
Or it could be I wait till a natural pause and perhaps I answer the query that Jamie had. Naturally, within my planned training, he can take his hand back down. And I think that's really important, because often the questions that you're asking in any training, we're going to answer later. It's planned into the training and we'll get to it. So the raising hand is really nice. It isn't waving, by the way, or saying hi, because I know a few people have raised their hands and then we see it and go, can I help? And they're like, oh no, I was just saying hi. I have been in meetings where people physically raise their hand, which is fab, but it doesn't work on every platform because you won't necessarily see everyone. And also if you're sharing your screen, so if you're sharing a presentation, you can't necessarily see all the attendees whilst you're sharing the screen. So the raising hand, it also exists on Zoom as far as I'm aware, so you can raise your hand. The other thing is using chats to ask questions. So again, some of you have experienced this where Mark ran the training and I moderated the chat just because there were so many people. But in a normal meeting, you're probably not going to be more than 20. So that's where the chat comes in handy. So let's say Jamie has a question that I'm going to come to later. Jamie, would you like to write a question? And
Yes.
So Jamie's going to write a question. So imagine this was training and Jamie writes a question into the chat. I can wait till the end of the meeting to address it and actually look and say, okay, Jamie, I can see you've got a question. What's your question? Or I come to them later, and you can work your way down them. Sometimes you've already answered them naturally in the training, but it's just a really nice way to manage the questions and not interrupt the person chairing the meeting or running the training. So I think that's really, really important that we just use these tools to make sure we aren't interrupting each other and we aren't talking over each other. For the person chairing the meeting, so if you are chairing the training or chairing the meeting, it's a really good idea to share an agenda or an overview of what's going to be covered, because that gives people a bit of a clue as to actually that's coming up later, so I'll save my question. But also you can set the rules at the beginning of how you expect people to behave. But obviously if people then arrive late, they haven't necessarily heard that. Jamie, is there anything you feel that I've missed?
Yeah, not that you've missed, but I'm just with the chat function. Obviously, I started my conversation within our meeting by clicking the conversation button here. Some people might find the chat function in the corner up here and click on that and then search for the person and chat to them that way. But whilst you're in a meeting, it's probably easier to do it within the conversation, within the meeting here.
Yes.
Because these separate chats that run alongside it up here, you lose track of it. You want to keep it all in one place. Just address the person who's delivering the training or who's speaking. You can at them, so they know it's for them, and then they can reply to each question that way, rather than creating multiple areas of questions.
Absolutely, and that's an issue we had in the training recently, where people didn't realise you can chat in the video and creates a little window the same way it does in Zoom, and they were actually going to the main team chat.
Yeah.
So there are one-to-one chats, so I might have a one-to-one with Jamie. There are team chats, say for in the TLC group, where everyone that's in the group can see it, but then there are chats within the meetings, which are the function that Jamie was using and you can see. So hopefully this is going to be useful. It is very hard with us all working from home, and particularly people like myself that live alone. You know, the social element of meetings is also really beneficial, and you know, you want to be heard and you do want to be involved, but there's a way to do it. And I think it's just using these tools so we aren't interrupting each other, we aren't talking over each other, and also we aren't getting the disruptive feedback and background noise that can sometimes happen in meetings. Is there anything else you want to add, Jamie?
I think that's it. That's really good. Yeah. We'll summarise. Just to quickly add that we are recording this and it will be uploaded to Microsoft Stream, which is a service that Microsoft have for videos. And all of the videos you record with anyone in a meeting will be uploaded to your Microsoft Stream. It's a bit of a tongue twister. And you can actually share the link to those videos with people, or you can edit them on there, which will be a whole separate video, I think. But other than that, brilliant. I'm going to mute myself now.
Okay, thank you, everyone.